Look at all of the yellow rattle coming. It's everywhere, every year. Ash don't eat the yellow rattle. Every year it gets more and more and more. Well worth planting. In my garden, you have to be a pretty serious problem to be considered a weed. And those things are, for me, ground elder, couch grass, bindweed, stinging nettles and creeping buttercup. If you're a weed and you're not one of those things, do you know what? I'm really not that bothered about you. Chances are you're hiding away somewhere in a corner and I'm not taking much notice of you. You're probably good for the bees, good for the butterflies, and you're not just spreading throughout my entire garden. So as you can see, this is one wheelbarrow full of many, many weeds that I've been taking out of the garden. Hello, my name's Suzanne and I garden and grow cut flowers in Devon in the UK. If I look a bit hot and flustered, that's because I've been gardening all day today and I've been doing a really tedious job, which is weeding. You join me in what's left of my cottage garden. Why is it such a mess? I will show you. Okay, so this bucket, as innocent as it looks, just a bucket, is absolutely full of bindweed roots. And this bucket is only the bindweed roots that I've taken out of a really small section of the garden. There have been a lot more bindweed roots. The bindweed was here when we moved in, and it started in one area of the garden, and I stupidly, I think, by moving plants around the garden, moved it around the entirety of the garden. But when I first moved in, I did a really good job of keeping on top of it, getting the worst of it out and having it manageable. But last year, one thing and another, I didn't keep on top of it, and it had completely taken over my garden. Now, a lot of you know I'm not a fan of digging. I'm also not a fan of herbicides. So I had to choose for me, which was the lesser of two evils. And for me, that was going to be to dig the bindweed out. And I have not finished. It's going to be slow progress. But while I've been digging it out, I've had to sacrifice quite a lot of my plants where the bindweed was growing up through the roots. And there are also lots of plants that have been bare rooted and then planted into compost into pots, which are desperate to get back in the garden. But until I get the beds finished, they're just going to have to sit in the pots there or end up on the compost heap themselves, which is very sad. But I know if I don't make a big effort to get on top of this bindweed now this year, I'm going to have a garden of bindweed and nothing but bindweed. So that's one of the reasons my garden's a mess. And then the other reason my garden's a mess is because I've decided to extend the beds. And I wanted to do that ideally in the autumn, but we just ended up having such wet ground that I didn't get an opportunity to do it. So what we've been doing is we've been using hose pipe to mark out the beds, and then I've been digging the new shape. And I'm probably more than halfway there, but I've still got one quite drastic change to do. But anyway, they're the reasons why the cottage garden is such a mess. So here we have some of the sting nettles that I'm growing. But do you know what? Although they look quite bad, I'm really not that worried about them in comparison to the bindweed. my bindweed bucket is getting fuller. Okay, so I've got a tarp there which has just got some turfs on it which I've dug up from the beds, and this is a box full of plants that have been dug up. And then we had to remove a tree. I don't know if you remember where the tarp is, there used to be another tree there, but unfortunately it was dead, so that has gone. And then again, more plants in pots that had to be dug up, and there lots of empty space where I've been digging through to take the bindweed out. This bed doesn't have the final edge on it yet. We will go along with the edger, but this was just me getting the shape. So you can see the shape of the lawn has just changed, a little bit curvier. And this, you can see this is the grass just here is where the bed used to go to. So obviously I will remove this area of turf, just as I said, work in progress. And then I've been through here on my hands and knees, and I can prove it if you look at my knees. Pulling out all this bindweed today. I probably won't have it all. I'm going to have to keep on top of it. And all of this bare soil will be mulched. Again, add it to the to-do list. What are the weeds that are giving you the most gyp in your garden? Which ones have got you tearing your hair out and you don't quite know how to get rid of them? Let me know. The ground elder for me hasn't been too bad. Sting nettles, not too bad. But yeah, this bindweed and couch grass. The couch grass, incidentally, I think is my fault, because I think it may have come from this field that I'm in at the moment. I think the horses grazed it, and then obviously I put the horse manure in the beds, so am I bad? We haven't got it in all the fields, so for example, if they grazed in that field there, it would be okay. So it's something for me to think about next time I'm mulching the beds. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to follow me along on my growing journey and get to watch more of my content, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to contribute towards the filming of my videos, then you can buy me a coffee, and the link for coffee buying is in the description for this video. I'm just, it's a bit uneven underfoot. Just, you can see obviously we had such a wet winter. To be fair, it could have been a lot worse, but because my ponies are quite small, they haven't made such a mess. Hello sheep, hello dogs. They hadn't made such a mess as they could have done, so I can't complain really. It was the garden that was wetter really. Anyway, time to go and close the greenhouse and the cold frame and go and do some administration. Oh, what fun. Take care guys, see you in the next video.